How to explain the Titanic to children. The Titanic disaster is one of the most famous maritime tragedies in history. Over 1,500 people died when the ship sank in the North Atlantic Ocean in 1912. Explaining the Titanic disaster to children can be a difficult task. The disaster was complex and involved many factors. It can be difficult to know how much detail to share with children. Here are some tips on how to explain the Titanic disaster to children. Start by asking your child what they already know about the Titanic. This will help you gauge their understanding of the disaster and how much detail you need to go into. Explain that the Titanic was a large passenger ship that sank on its maiden voyage from England to New York City. Tell your child that over 1,500 people died in the disaster. Use simple language and avoid using technical terms. For example, instead of saying that the Titanic struck an iceberg and ruptured its hull, you could say that the Titanic hit a big piece of ice and started to leak. Focus on the human stories of the Titanic disaster. Tell your child about the brave passengers and crew members who risked their lives to save others. You could also tell your child about the children who were on board the Titanic and what happened to them. Be prepared to answer your child's questions. Children are naturally curious, and they may have a lot of questions about the Titanic disaster. Be honest and open in your answers, and try to avoid giving them any misinformation. Here is an example of how you could explain the Titanic disaster to a young child. The Titanic was a big ship that sailed from England to New York City. There were lots of people on the ship, including children. One night, the Titanic hit a big piece of ice and started to leak. Water came into the ship and it started to sink. Many people were saved, but many people also died. It was a very sad event. But there were also many brave people on the Titanic who helped others. They were heroes. You can also use books, movies, and documentaries to help your child learn more about the Titanic disaster. There are many resources available that are appropriate for different ages. It is important to remember that every child is different and will react to the Titanic disaster in their own way. Some children may be curious and want to learn all about the disaster, while others may be frightened or upset by it. Be patient and understanding, and let your child know that it is okay to feel whatever they are feeling.